Hi, I'm Renee Williams,
And I'm Billy Thomas.
and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. We are tackling some myths today, some other topics as well, but there's been a couple of things that have been going around the internet, and so we've decided to start this new series, tackling myths. So
Oh,
this should be an interesting episode.
I'm really excited, and we've got a good one to start off the series with. You may have been out in the woods in the winter and heard big cracks or pops or maybe little mini explosions. And if you've been on the internet and looking at social
They're
media,
not many.
you might see some exploding trees. And yeah, so we got Dr. Jacob Muller is going to be talking about exploding trees, what's real, what's not, and what's kind of the real story about some of those noises we hear
Mhm.
from these trees in the winter. So I'm really excited to have Dr. Muller talking about that. And then we have Dr. Ellen Crocker with another edition of her Pesky Plants. And I'll save the pesky plant for her to talk about, but it is one that we'll need to be kind of looking out for and trying to get a handle on before it gets a handle on your woods itself. So,
Right.
yeah, no doubt. And then we have our good friend Jacob Stewart from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. We've got Jacob on here. He's going to be talking about a new project that's about to roll out, a Kentucky Conservation Vendor Database, right?
Mm.
So a number of us have been working on trying to put that together, but Fish and Wildlife has taken the lead on building this awesome kind of website. So we're excited to have Jacob talking about that here in a little bit too. But we're excited to have you all with us. This show is for you all. So please, if you've got
Definitely.
questions for our presenters, let us know. You can hit us up in the chat via Zoom, or if you're on YouTube or you're a podcast listener, we'd love to talk to you as well. Do us via email, forestry.extension@uky.edu, and we can respond to you that way. But delighted to have each and every one of you with us today for a great show. And Renee, excited to be with you on this beautiful day here in February.
Definitely. It's sunny and that's good.
Yeah, no.
So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So, Dr. Muller, if you'd like to turn your camera on, and thank you. I've been wanting to do
Greetings.
this for a while, do a myth busting kind of thing, and we've decided to call these segments tree tales, rooting out the myths. It's kind of hard to say. I shouldn't have called it that. But
Yeah.
so we're going to root out these myths that are going on about. I mean, how many of these things did you see, these videos, did you see of exploding trees going on right now because of all this ice?
I couldn't tell if it was just my algorithm or not, but it like endless. Like, yeah.
It might be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Forestry, trees exploding. Why not?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, my mom sent me videos and others, so I'm guessing it was more widespread than just
Right.
a forestry centric
Oh,
All
algorithm.
right. So let's go ahead and get your slides started and let's
dig in.
debunk this
Oh, no,
myth.
I'm excited about this, Dr. Muller. Thanks for putting this together.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here today to hopefully debunk this first myth of the series. And there's no shortage of those forestry myths, and I look forward to this series as it continues to develop. But today we're going to be talking about exploding trees. Let's see. Okay, so here in Kentucky, especially after events like the 2009 statewide ice storm, events in 2015 and 2018, and more recent cold snaps, even more recent ice storms, we hear people talk about exploding trees, or we have, right? Those claims pop up across the region, whether you're in the eastern Kentucky hollers or central Kentucky woodlots, even in cities like Louisville and Lexington, we hear about these things or these myths. Right? So today I wanted to explain really what's happening in our forests, in our woodlands, and why these exploding trees isn't really the right explanation. So you may have seen videos like these, right, coming up on our Facebook feeds or our Instagram feeds. And so we have this viral claim, right? So after recent cold snaps, we've seen these posts or short videos claiming that trees are exploding across the country, right? Often shared by our well-meaning friends and neighbors, right? These videos frequently come up when someone hears a loud crack at night, right? Once that word explosion is used, it spreads quickly and it gets replaced without much questioning, right? Even worse now is we have these very realistic AI videos that are spreading across our social media pages, right? Such as this, right? That's not a real video, right? That's AI. Okay. So what's actually happening, or at least what's an explosion first, right? From a physics standpoint, an explosion requires a release of stored energy, right? Usually through combustion or extreme internal pressure. And that's often accompanied by a shock wave, right? So think about fireworks, fuel tanks exploding, or industrial accidents, right? Trees don't contain compressed gases or fuels or even an ignition source, right? That alone should make us skeptical of this claim, right? Even in Kentucky's coldest winters, there's no real internal pressure building inside our trees that could cause a true explosion, right? So that's our first clue that something else is going on, right? So why trees can't explode, right? In our forests, when trees fail, it's usually because of a mechanical stress, right? Wind, ice, temperature changes, but not a pressure buildup. That failure that you see in a split tree stem along a ridge top is the same physical process as a cracked wooden beam, right? It can be sudden, but it's just wood responding to that stress. Okay. So in Kentucky forest, when we hear these loud cracks, right? Oftentimes in clear, bitterly cold nights, and that may be followed by a warm day, right? Landowners might describe hearing a sound like a rifle coming from the woods, right? That noise is often a wood crack, right? I mean, here it certainly could be a rifle, but there's a high likelihood that that could be just a frost crack, right? And that's usually a long vertical split forming suddenly along the trunk of the tree. Okay? So why frost cracks are common, right? This happens occasionally across Kentucky forests, right? And thin-barked trees are especially prone to frost cracking, right? Trees on southwest facing slopes might be more prone when temperatures warm up during the day, followed by a rapid cooling at night, right? Those temperature swings can create ideal conditions for frost cracks, right? And this can happen especially after a dry summer. Okay. So in Kentucky, the freeze-thaw cycle happens all winter long, but especially in late January and February. Water enters through these existing cracks in our oaks and our maple stems, freezes overnight, and slowly widens those cracks, right? This weakens the trees over time, but it happens gradually, not this big explosive event. Right? And so we see this commonly in our Kentucky forest, this freezing and thawing, right? And that's also what's responsible for producing our maple sap, right, in our maple syrup farms. Right? I also want to mention ice storms, right? So in Kentucky, ice storms are notorious for loading our hardwood crowns with heavy ice, right? During the 2009 ice storm, some of the trees didn't fail immediately, but instead they bent under the ice, developed internal fractures, and broke later on when conditions changed, when winds picked up. And we see this often with ice storms, right? So we often will see a lot of damage occurring suddenly as that ice and that weight builds up on our trees. But over time, as the ice starts to melt, winds pick up, right? A lot of that damage has been done internally, and we can see some of those fractures happening after the event. Okay. Kentucky ice storm in the reality, right? So Kentucky kind of sits in this prime ice storm corridor, right? I think we're all familiar with that. If you looked at any of the model, I don't know about any of you, but I'm kind of a meteorology nerd, and I follow all of the forecasting, and I get on and I follow Ryan Hall, y'all, and follow all those kind of trends and forecasting and live streaming of those events. And you can kind of see on the map, you have the colder air in the north. And then with this last event, we had this warm nose that was pushing up that was creating warm air about 1,000 or 2,000 feet above the ground. And we still had that cold air down on the ground. And so when all that moisture fell, it fell as liquid precipitation, and then immediately as it hit the ground, right, we had these these freezing events. So we see this frequently in this region. We're kind of right on this boundary for that cold air in the north coming down, along with warm air coming up from the south. But one reason people think that trees are exploding, at least as we've kind of described it, is that delayed failure, right? That delayed snap sound can be violent, even though that damage began much earlier within the tree. So why it sounds like an explosion, right? One reason is in winter, in particular, our forests can be very quiet, right? The leaves are gone, the snow dampens the background noise, and cold air in particular carries that sound further, right? So when a large tree splits or a limb finally gives way, that sound can echo through the forest, right? Making it seem much more dramatic than it actually is. The real hazard that I would argue it isn't this idea of this explosion, right? But it's what we call widow makers, right? And you can see in this picture, I've kind of highlighted it in green, that hanging limb, right? And we might see partially split oak or tree stems, leaning trees are common after ice storms. But many of these injuries happen, injuries to people or even deaths happen when people go out into the forest too soon to check damage, assuming that the danger has passed after that ice storm event has happened. But in reality, we have a lot of these dangers hanging above our head when the winds pick up, when that tree finally fails from those previous injuries that it sustained, can be an incredibly dangerous and hazardous place. But we don't fully understand how future climates will impact these events, but there are some models that suggest that the frequency of ice storms may increase in parts of Kentucky, which would mean more stress on our trees. But that doesn't change how the wood behaves, right? Trees aren't becoming more explosive, right? Just our AI videos are becoming much more common, which helps spread these myths, right? But accuracy matters, and that's I think why Renee has started this series on busting these myths because it is important to reduce the spread of misinformation. Right? When we label these events as explosive, we kind of miss a real lesson. I think accurate explanations help Kentucky landowners make better decisions when they enter the woods, which trees to remove, how to manage their storm damaged woodlands safely. So some key takeaways. In Kentucky, loud winter tree failures, right, usually come from frost cracks or from ice storms or a lot of weight building up in the canopy, right? And some of these can be delayed even after the ice storm has passed, right? These are well understood forestry phenomena, but they can be dangerous. They're not explosive, right? So understanding that difference helps reduce some of the fear and improve our safety out in the forests, right? So just final message, right? It's pretty simple, right? The trees aren't technically exploding in our forests, right? But misinformation certainly is, right? So by understanding what's really happening, we can focus on the safety, good forest management, and in clear communication. So with that, I will wrap up and stop sharing my screen.
Oh, thank you so very much. Someone asked about lightning strikes, and they said that they had a tree splintered and half fell because of the lightning strike.
Sure. Yeah. And if there is ever an explosive event that could happen, lightning would be certainly the most
The most common.
expensive thing that we could see because there is that energy and that ignition source from lightning. And so that is a
Okay.
good point that I mean, we should be very cautious of lightning for several reasons. And I think a lot of us might take shelter under trees during
Hmm.
a lightning storm. Um, I lived out west for a long time and spent a lot of time in the mountains. And that's what you didn't want to do, especially go find the tallest tree and take shelter underneath it because they were kind of the prime targets for uh, lightning strikes.
Wow. Fortunately, we don't get a lot of lightning with our snow, so yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We do. I mean, thunder snow is a phenomenon.
Thing.
It's a thing. Yeah, I was surprised about that. I hadn't heard of that before. And then like thunder snow. What's that?
Yeah.
No, it was good. I really enjoyed the presentation. It was informative and entertaining. So thank you very much. I
Definitely.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for busting these myths. I'm
There
going
you
to
go.
try to have one a month. It's going to be called Tree Tales, rooting out the myths. So,
Yeah. So let
yeah.
us know
So
if
let us
you've
know.
heard of any myths out there about our forests or
Yeah, I think
wildlife.
that's a good opportunity to get feedback
Yeah.
from what folks are hearing out there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Dr. Muller.
yeah,
We
thanks for
appreciate you
Yes.
having
being on.
It was good stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Thanks.
Speaking of good stuff, yeah, we
Yeah.
got Dr.
Dr.
Ellen Crocker with
Crocker.
us. Woohoo! Hey, how are you?
Hey everybody, doing great. I enjoyed hearing about some exploding, not exploding trees, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
that's pretty
seeing
cool.
a lot of related winter injury damage online, so definitely a hot topic at the moment.
I'm sure I can get with you and get a lot of myth busting myths,
Yes,
you
no
know?
doubt. Yes, I could think of a few, yes, that we
Yeah.
can maybe play with
Uh,
later. So cool.
well,
Plant calorie pair, right?
no,
But
no, we're
That's
but
the
not
today
myth.
about
we're
that.
yeah,
That's the
today
myth.
we're talking about a pesky plant, right? Yeah.
Yes. Which one are we talking about today, Dr. Crocker?
Today we're going to be talking about lesser celandine. People
Mm.
also call it fig buttercup, and it goes by a couple different names.
Mhm.
But maybe the myth with that would be, oh, it's so pretty when it flowers. It looks so
Mhm.
nice. I want that plant. But in
But you
reality,
don't.
you do not want this plant.
Yeah. Not so fast. Yes.
Not so
Yes.
fast.
Yes.
We're going to correct that myth today as well.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks. Looks
Thank
good.
you. Great. So today we're going to talk about lesser celandine or fig buttercup, a pesky plant that you do not want to find, but it is becoming more and more common in our area. And when you see it in the late winter, early spring, it can look like a welcomed visitor. You know, we're tired of the cold and the snow and the ice. We're ready for some green and some flowers. But this is one you don't want to see. So, not only is it toxic to humans and livestock, but it can cause big problems in your woods and other natural areas, especially in those wetter spots. So, what is this and what's going on here? Well, here you can see a really dense mat of lesser celandine, and it's showing why it's a problem. It can really rapidly take over. It can form these dense mats that cover the ground and exclude other species. And it's a spring ephemeral. So that means it's going to pop up in the late winter and early spring, and then it's going to go dormant for the rest of the year, dying back. So on the one hand, it means it's not going to take up all of that area above ground permanently, but it's going to be there. It's going to take up that area that you would rather see other spring ephemerals there, and prevent that from happening. In addition, it likes to grow on the side of streams and wet areas in flood zones. So that could maybe increase erosion potential when it goes dormant. It's not going to be there all the time, but those roots will still be there. The little tubers will be there, and it could spread. So here's a few pictures of an infestation that I found in northern Kentucky. And you can see that it really fills in. So it's a dense mat there. And not only is it competing with the spring ephemerals that you want to see in your woods, since the soil is going to be exposed the other times of year, you could see more movement there, less holding it in place. And you're definitely in the sites I've visited, you first see it right along the sides of those streams and creeks, but then it could move up from there into some of those drier spots. So this is again kind of that wet, forested, park that is more of a wooded stand, but quite wet. But then if we move up a little bit, we can still see it moving into upland sites. This is a front yard in Lexington, Kentucky that I saw that was entirely filled with it. So it doesn't necessarily need those really wet areas. That's just where you're going to see it first. So it can even be a problem in landscape settings like this one, growing in lawn and turf. And because it has this pretty buttercup flower and it pops up early in the year, I've talked to people who planted it in their garden and then it took over the whole thing. So, not something you want to do, definitely something to avoid because it's not going to look pretty and it's going to be a problem in your woods. So, how does it spread around? In addition to people moving it, it has a feature that lets it move easily through waterways and in soil, and that's many tiny bulbs. So, here's a picture. You can see where the soil has eroded, and all of these tiny little bulbs are lesser celandine. It makes it almost impossible to pull it up because if you try to do that, what you're going to do is dislodge these little bulbs. And in addition, it has even tinier little bulbils in the above ground portion at the intersection of those leaves and stems, which can also get dislodged. Now, any of this could float downstream, could get stuck in soil, moved around that way on muddy equipment or hooves or your shoes. So something to consider when you're working in areas that have lesser celandine invasions. You don't want to accidentally move it around even more. So if you're trying to identify it, some identification features. How do you know it's lesser celandine? Well, it's got these shiny dark green leaves that emerge really early. So late winter, early spring. They have a dark green, glossy color, and it almost looks like maybe yellow violet or something like that, but earlier than you would expect it. To look like this, these heart-shaped leaves, like this and like this. And unlike the yellow violet and some other ones, it's got this dappled, kind of water spotted appearance. So it's not uniformly shiny and necessarily the same color all over. When you see them in person, that's something to look for. And the leaves and flowers, they're a buttercup, so they're in the buttercup family, are toxic if eaten and can cause a range of different problems for humans and animals. Here's one growing in turf. So another thing to look for would be these bright, glossy yellow flowers. And while these are distinctive, it's also worth noting that there are other buttercups that might pop up this time of year. Some weeds, some other invasive buttercups, as well as some native species that you might not want to confuse it with. On the other hand, I do think once you get an eye for lesser celandine, it's pretty easy to pick it out between the leaves, the flowers, where it's growing, and when it emerges in flowers. So where is lesser celandine now? Uh, if we were to look, there's a couple different websites and resources that I use to try to determine where an invasive plant is and where it could be a problem. One of those is iNaturalist. So if you're listening to this, I bet there's a good chance you already have iNaturalist on your phone. It's a wonderful resource for identification of different insects and plants, as well as citizen science. So what you share on iNaturalist can be accessed by researchers and used in different research projects, like what I'm showing you right now. It can also be pulled to get an idea of where different plants are. So if we look on iNaturalist for where people find lesser celandine, you'll see that it's kind of all over. We have where it's native to in parts of Europe and even into Asia. We also see that it has invaded and been introduced to different places throughout the world. So here in North America, we see a lot in the eastern US as well as some on the West Coast. So if we were to zoom in to where we are in the eastern US, we can see that there's a lot of it here in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast, in the upper Midwest. It's established and known as a really bad invasive issue. For those of us in Kentucky, it's just emerging as a major issue. If you're in the northern part of the state, it's been there longer and is more severe. And it's moving out from there, and you can see more of it in central Kentucky, in eastern Kentucky, and in western Kentucky as well. Another group that I like to look for invasive plants and other invasive organisms is EDMAPS. While iNaturalist is really easy and great to use for a lot of different things, EDMAPS is really nice for verified locations of things. It's commonly used by professionals to report. And if you look on the EDMAPS map, you can see it's probably not as filled in as iNaturalist. A lot of people are using iNaturalist, and not quite as many people use EDMAPS. But you can get this really nice distribution of kind of where we're starting to see it pop up the most. There's probably a lot of counties that are missing from that map, though. So if you're seeing it in new places, you could always report it on one of these platforms to tell us, where it's going to be a problem next. So what do we do about lesser celandine? Well, first off, I definitely say no matter how pretty those little yellow buttercups look, don't plant it. Don't move it from one spot to another intentionally. So don't plant it intentionally in your yard or garden. You will regret that decision. Let me save you from that one, having talked to people who have. Even if you see it in your neighbor's property, it's not going to pan out the way you want it to. But also be careful if you are traveling around in areas that have a lot of this, recognize that you could accidentally move it around with you. Now, if you do have it, ideally you can catch it before it spreads. So maybe that's digging it up, and I mean the entire area around that root if you just have one little plant or two little plants. But because it has those lots of tiny bulbs, you can't just easily pull it up. That's going to be tough. Now, you could, for a relatively small contained area, you could solarize or cover up the area entirely with a tarp, with cardboard and mulch, smother it for several seasons and kill what's underneath. That's certainly an option. Another is foliar herbicide spray. So the time of year when it is putting its leaves on and flowering, there's not going to be that many other things that have their leaves out that time of year. So you can look for it and apply a foliar herbicide spray. So one of the challenges with it is that it is so ephemeral, though. So you need to be scouting and doing that right during that time window that you've got. Here you can see a student in my class in an area that previously had a lot of lesser celandine. And after several years of working on it, going through and making sure, do we see any more of it? Where is it? Kind of scouting with the different plants that are there. There are many different herbicides that would be effective for lesser celandine. And it totally depends on where you're working. So if you're in a stream area, if you're right near a waterway, you need to be really careful to only use herbicides that are appropriate in those settings. If you're working in turf, there are different herbicides that are going to be a better fit, that are going to target that celandine, but not some of the grasses. It just depends. So I really encourage you to do some research on that. Make sure you're using the right thing for the setting that you're in. And then no matter what you do, afterwards, monitor for new arrivals because those little bulbs are easy to dislodge and stay in the soil, and you're not going to get 100% coverage the first time you do it. Make sure to follow up year after year to see what new comes in. Maybe it's more or lesser celandine. Maybe it's something else that you don't want trying to fill those spots. So I'm just going to share this photo. This was an area that I was working at, the UK Arboretum Woods. And in 2019, I noticed they had a pocket of lesser celandine in the back corner of the woods appeared. And it was pretty contained at this point. So we tested out a bunch of different things. And just a few years later, you can see we still have a few plants popping up here and there. This is the same time of year. I think this was early March, I want to say, for both of these, but nowhere near as much. So we were trying a bunch of different approaches, some foliar herbicide spray with different herbicides, some solarizing, and had a lot of luck. That being said, we didn't get all of it. So it's important to continue monitoring and managing to prevent that from reestablishing. So with that, hopefully you learned a little bit about lesser celandine, what it is, what we should do about it. And if you have any questions, I can take those in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you doing that. And there was a question. One, is it edible?
No, it is toxic to humans and livestock. Do not, no.
No.
Do not eat that.
Do not eat that.
I know some invasives you have made things out of. This is not one of those.
No, this is
Not
not
garlic
one of them.
mustard, right?
Yeah.
So, and a whole other concern would be, the potential for animals to graze on that and other buttercups. I'm not saying it's the only one,
Right.
but, something you would not want as well.
What about aquatic safe herbicides for lesser celandine?
So there are a number of them. So without kind of going into details about particular brands, what you would want to look for are those that are labeled aquatic safe or labeled for that use. There are different formulations. So you can have aquatic safe glyphosate containing herbicides. You can have aquatic safe triclopyr containing herbicides. Those are two chemicals that are commonly used in forestry applications, which is why I'm mentioning them. But there are others as well. And then another point that I would make is that in addition to paying really close attention to that label, what does it say about how close can you be from a waterway? Think about what else you're adding. So a surfactant can be really helpful for lesser celandine and others to increase the ability of that herbicide to stick to the plant, to penetrate the plant, but might not be appropriate for some of those aquatic settings as well. So not only thinking about the active chemical, but anything else you're adding into that mix. Not always follow the label. Not only is it the law, so what you legally need to be doing, but it's the best way to make sure you're keeping yourself safe as an applicator, you're keeping the environment safe, and you're going to be effective in what you're doing. The last thing we want to do if we are managing invasive plants is to have a bigger net negative impact from our management than a net positive. If we kill those invasive plants, but we also kill other things that we don't want to be killing, then that is a big failure. So kind of thinking about that really carefully instead of using a one-size-fits-all approach, picking the right chemical, the right formulation for the setting.
So we have one more question is, after you solarize, do you need to remove the bulbs and the soil?
No, that process should kill everything that's under there. Now that's going to be everything that's under there. And it might take different amounts of time depending on how you do it. So just something I'd recommend looking into further if you want to go down that road.
Yeah. Question about its ability to fix nitrogen.
I don't know about that. A good question. Not to my knowledge, but I'll have to look into it.
I would think its ability to fix nitrogen wouldn't override its invasiveness, right? If you're like looking for a trade-off here, there's probably other things we could get that could fix nitrogen, hopefully.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yes. No, good
Yeah,
questions, though. Yeah.
And some plants do have nitrogen fixing microbes, bacteria associated with them. To my knowledge, lesser celandine does not, but great question.
Yeah. And then a question about replacement afterwards.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the location and what else is growing there. In a lot of these kind of wetter areas, um, I think the the plants that I would think of would be those that would thrive there. What native species are really gonna take off and fill that spot? And sometimes it might be a very different conversation if we're talking about a few plants here and there versus an entire area that is filled with lesser celandine. If you're trying to remove all of that, not only is that a huge hurdle, but you've got to be thinking about erosion as well. You want to get something in there rapidly to fill that spot. What else is going to be growing there different times of year and what's going to compete really well? Versus if it's a few plants here or there, that might be something that you can take care of and not have to deal with replanting if there's lots of other great native things that are growing. So lots of options there.
Yeah,
Um,
good segment. Yeah,
yeah,
nice, really
Awesome.
nice. Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Crocker. Yeah. So be on the
thanks.
lookout, folks. We know it's out there, right? And let's contain it and minimize the spread. Yes. Awesome.
Right.
Good stuff.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
good deal. Oh, all
All
right.
right. Now I guess we have Jacob squared.
Yeah, Jacob
Jacob too.
twice. Yes, no,
Yeah.
Jacob Stewart with us from the
Oh,
Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. They're trying
go
to
ahead
pop
and
on
turn your
here.
All
camera
right,
on.
yeah, my camera. There we
There
go.
we
There we
go.
go.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Hey,
there we
welcome,
go.
welcome back. Glad to have
Thank
you
you.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got an
Okay.
exciting thing going on, I hear.
Yeah, well, it's not just me, it's a bunch of partners
Mhm.
that have worked together to try to get the word out there that there's ways to make money in conservation.
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that's there's a bunch of partners that have done this. Billy's been one of them, pivotal to this. So kind of this could be a couple conversations. I'm gonna start one that we could have a whole conversation, and I think we should at some point on here
Okay.
on on types of work to do, and then but I want to focus on the idea of what we've developed to help contractors and landowners find people to help them do conservation. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so if y'all don't mind, I'll jump in here. And the first
Yeah,
thing, I do have some slides. I did think this is something I'll cover quickly.
sure.
But I want to drive some points home, the importance of this to anybody out there who may be interested in being a contractor of what's out there. So if
Okay.
Awesome.
you don't mind, I'll
That'd be
start
great.
sharing.
All right. Thank you.
So this was a presentation I actually did for the Landscapers and Nurseries Association here last week. But first off, I wanted to start off in some of the key partners in helping us go down this road are listed here: the conservation districts, UK Extension, Fish and Wildlife, Kentucky Division of Forestry, Kentucky State University Extension. All have been pivotal in going down this road. But to real quick, just kind of introduce you to the idea of kind of sorry, go back. What we're talking about here. So what we're talking about is the idea that there is work out here to be done in the conservation world. Land, can manage itself as it is, but if we want to uh, keep stuff in a certain way, being from an agriculture side of things to a wildlife side of things to a forestry side of things, there is management that needs to be done. What this slide here kind of depicts is the idea of a bunch of different type of stuff that partners that are part of this suggest to landowners. Again, I think there's a whole presentation just on how contractors can be used and the money to be made in doing stuff like disking, planting seeds, herbicide application, like Dr. Crocker just talked about it for invasives, to the idea of chipping up, opening up old fields, prescribed fire, forest stand improvement, invasive treatments, from fields to woods. So there's all kinds of stuff to be there. And again, that's a whole nother presentation. But kind of going back to the point of the conservation database that we developed. So what you're looking at here is the map of the private lands biologists across the state for Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. As you'll see, there's 16 of us there. Now you jump over to the service foresters for Kentucky Division of Forestry. We got, I think there's 23 across the state. Then you jump into the conservation districts. There's 121 of them. And no, you've not been wrong your whole life. There's just one extra. There's two in one county. We still have 120 counties. Then you have your UK extension offices. There's one in every county, so you have 120 of those. And then you have the Natural Resource Conservation Service. There's 36 physical offices across the state. There are more planners and people to give information that are within those offices. But let's just say 36 of those type of offices to give out information. So what that is that gives the state of Kentucky and the Commonwealth 316 individuals that are out there pushing conservation work. And through my 20-year career with the agency, I've seen a huge hole in the idea of we're talking to landowners, suggesting stuff to landowners. They say, yeah, this would be awesome to do to my property. And then what even happens to me is life gets in the way, or the idea of the expertise of what we're talking about you don't have. So the importance of contractors being there to take over, to take that next step, to get the conservation work done, is proven to be pretty important. And that is in some instances that is a limiting factor on getting conservation on the ground. So and overall this time, all of the partners have lists that they give landowners. But it becomes cumbersome to keep up with that list. And each person has a different list, and trying to share the list, it gets very confusing. So we decided to kind of join forces to try to make a better landing place for everybody and to come up with something that we can all use to get this information out there to landowners and to advertise vendors that are willing to work in this landscape. Again, I'm going to just show you here real quick, talking about what kind of work, and this is driving home the fact of us pushing. Because I am over the private lands, I had access to this data. So I'm not saying any of the other partners aren't doing, and I'm sure they are doing just as much and more than what we have done. But this is just in the past year. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife has done 771 initial visits, which has produced 571 plans that included 61,000 plus acres of management suggested. And that's just in 1 year of what we've done. So you take that with all the other partners we have, and there's hundreds of thousands of acres that we're suggesting work to get done on, that we need contractors to be able to help support that. This is kind of the money portion of this. It's one thing to have work there for somebody. It's another to say, okay, well, where's the money paying for this? Well, for the most part, the biggest partner we have as far as funding is your USDA and RCS with their programs that they have. If you look at the top line here, last year there was just over 3,000 applications. They ended up with 703 contracts. Covering 68,000 acres, which is $25 million or almost $26 million of obligated funds. So there's a lot of money coming into the state. If you look down at the next part of this slide, you'll see how much this is from 2017 to 2024 of how much money for each one of the type of practices that you as a contractor you may be able to help landowners with. And this is just a small list of what we have. And then to the right is the average obligation per year. So as you can see, fencing, there's over $2 million worth of money goes towards fencing. Forest stand improvement, there's $1 million across the state obligated each year for that practice. And you just keep going down the list. And the whole point of this is to show you that there is money out there. So the whole idea is to try to build something to hook all of the conservation plans and stuff that we've suggested to contractors and the money there to help to support get it on the ground. So now I'm going to jump here real quick and actually show you the conservation services database that we have created. Renee, let me know if you see. I gotta figure out how to get out of this. I gotta figure out how to get out of my PowerPoint presentation real quick.
I can stop it.
Sorry. All right. Do you see the conservation services?
Gotcha.
I do. Yes.
Okay. So this is what we've came up with. And as Billy mentioned, Kentucky Fish and Wildlife is the the hoster. Well, this will be hosted on our servers, and our IT people have built this, and I just want to commend them for the work they've done. It doesn't take very much to surpass me in the idea of database stuff, but they've done a really good job and have impressed me. So as you'll see here, this is what the landing page you'll see when you get here. If you look at the top, this right now I'm logged in, but the contractor can register right here. And we'll just kind of go through here and see if it's working. So you'll be able, the contractor will come in here and enter this information for their work, choose what counties they're willing to work in. Then they'll provide, if if whatever work they're doing requires pesticide certification, they can provide that number. Certified burn boss number, if that's something there, master logger. Again, this website is not just for wildlife forestry. This is agriculture, everything across the board. And then a place for them to put their website. They have a website. And then basically they'll just go through and choose what they're willing to do. We have everything from service contracting, which is there now, to equipment rental, different stuff that you can put out here if you have to rent. And then you have the vendor products, stuff that will be there to buy. And let me say again, this is going to come out Monday, so there's some stuff that we're still getting added and still getting worked on right here. Conservation planning. So when you start, who do you have come out to help you plan your stuff? Is it going to be in the agriculture world, urban forestry, wildlife, or pond management? You can select that if you're willing to do and have the ability to offer those services. Then you have a place here for landing for cost share programs. If it fits into one of these, and if it's non NGO or local or state, so you can use this to advertise cost share available to a county. And then legal aspect. So estate planning, tax, accountant, timber theft. And again, as we get this thing up and running, I'm sure there'll be stuff that we will want to add to this, but again, we're just trying to start off here. So, and then you'll have an email and password. And then the way, like I said, one of the biggest complaints was keeping it up to date and valid. So with this system, once you have created a user, you will be getting an email on December 1st and December 15th reminding you to click a button to say you want to stay registered in the system. If you don't click that button, you will not be shown come January 1. And then you can always get back in and decide to click it and say I'm back active if you want to. But it's just a way to try to keep it up to date so landowners aren't spinning their wheels trying to find somebody to come do work. All right. So that's kind of the end of the idea of what it would look like to register. So here's the other side of it. And if you want to look at as a landowner, what you'll see. So again, conservation planning is the idea is like, I live in Adair County and I want wildlife. You press search and there's a whole list of people who are here to do wildlife. So you have Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. There's a link for them. You have Quail Forever. You have USDA for NRCS, and the rest here is just a test for now. But eventually, as a landowner, if he wants wildlife advice, somebody can put on here and go with it. It's the same with forestry. You have right now we have the Kentucky Chapter Association of Consulting Foresters. You have just a test vendor, and then here we got Billy on here is going to come help you on the UK side, and then the USDA with NRCS. So again, this is just kind of get the point across of where you would get the information on this kind of stuff. Then again, cost share just breaks it down on the idea of programs available. If you're interested in cost share for wetland management, you click there. Again, what county you're interested in. And sorry, I gotta look around my other computer to get the information. So then it comes down here and it says, so for federal, it's up here on the federal side, it's always going to be NRCS programs. So state, if they ever have anything, will show up. Local or like NGO, you'll put it at special cost share program. You can put it in here so people can find you. Next one, service contractor. So this is the person who's going to do your disking, your dozing, your drone work, your excavator, your fencing, all this kind of stuff. Basically, you just um, click on dozer operator, and again, Dare County, and search, and you get the person here. You can click on a drop down, and it takes you, and it actually shows you all the counties they're willing to work in and what they're actually, all the stuff they're willing to do, not just the one you select. Um, and then it shows you which certifications they have right there. And then you have all their contact information. And then equipment rental. Everything here, and this list was really built on, I think, thanks to the conservation districts across the state for giving us information to what they already have out there for renting. And then we've added some other things to be options. And you will see some counties won't have some of this stuff available. But again, this is where you search, and you'll have to just kind of work your way through it to find out who has what available for you to use. And a vendor list. Again, you click on this, and a vendor who's selling fertilizer can put their name on here. So someone can get our herbicide, lime, rock, trees, and this one right here, I promise you, will grow. As you see, there's nothing on here for seed. That is coming. And then last but not least, the legal aspect. So if you want any kind of help with this, again, it gives somebody the idea that they can register here to be available to landowners. Again, this is all built to be a landowner, centric aspect of trying to get them connect to the vendor as we go. And it will be the vendor's responsibility to put themselves on here and let them landowners know what's available. But it's also going to be the landowner's responsibility to make sure they're vetting the people. This will not be vetted by any of the partners. As you saw, when you look at this nice red writing, that's our disclaimer as Fish and Wildlife and other partners saying, we have not vetted these people. We do not know what kind of work they do. We do not say it's going to be great, bad. We're just indifferent, just trying to hook you up. So there is, this is you doing your due diligence, just like as you're doing an electrician or a plumber. You need to make sure you do everything to make sure you're hiring the right person to meet your needs. So that's just a real quick overview. I talked to our IT people today. They're making the final touches. I hope to have this out the first of next week. And then it'll go live, and we'll start pushing out a whole lot of pushing out the information of getting logged on where it is. If you're on here right now, I know it for sure will be live on Kentucky Fish and Wildlife's website, and I'm assuming once I get this link up, other people will be sharing it on their websites as far as the partners go as well. So I'll stop sharing here, and if anybody has any questions, I'll take them, or Billy or Renee, if you all have anything you want to add.
I can tell you people are excited about this.
I'm getting fired up about it, Jacob. I think we're going to get some conservation work done, man. I'm really excited about it. Thanks to you and for taking the lead on this with your IT folks, man. You all have done a good job. The only thing I would say, folks, as Jacob mentioned, we're building this, right? So if you see things that we need to have on there, please let us know, and we'll add them as appropriate. But also help us spread the word about this, right? You all in the From the Woods Today audience, you all are some of the most connected and most aware folks of what's going on. Please use that and help us distribute this across the state. We think it'll be a great benefit for landowners as well as our contractors out there too. So Jacob, I'm really excited about this, and I think it's going to go a long way and get some great work done here in the state of Kentucky.
I sure hope so. I mean, I know me and Billy have talked about this, and there's a whole nother show on the idea of, what each one of these practices means and what they entail for contractors. And I really hope we can work towards, that's kind of the next step of this, of saying, all right, who would be interested in doing this? And let us introduce you to it, because there is work out there, and there's a lot of us that can tell you, if it's worth it, if it ain't worth it, and what it costs, and time and effort. So we'd love to share that information. Yeah.
Wonderful. I know you said it would be on Fish and Wildlife's website, but do you have a direct link to it if you could put in the chat pod or
Not yet.
not yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
Not
yeah,
yet.
we'll drop that on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Or
yeah, so
next
it's
week,
just
maybe next
Yeah.
Wednesday, we'll put
Oh,
it in the
we're going to
chat.
be sharing this frequently from here, right?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, because it's a great resource for you all out there.
yeah,
But you
and
can
it's
just go
for
to your
you.
website and find it if
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, it,
And we'll have
like
a
I,
link every two, Renee,
yeah.
somewhere for us. Yep.
Okay, no
Yeah,
problem.
so I will definitely get this out, and Renee, whatever audience you have, you please email it. I mean,
Yep.
and then
Sure.
if there's anybody professionals on here that are sitting at desk that have contractors come
Yep.
in, we really want to try to transition people to this. I'm going to create some business cards that has on one side a QR code for a landowner. You flip it over, and the other side will be a QR code for how you register
Yeah.
for the contractor. So
Yeah.
you can just put them on your desk, and no matter if it's the landowner looking for help or a contractor willing to do the work, you can just hand them here and say, scan this and go. To try to make it as easy as we can for people.
Oh, I'm really excited about it. We did have a few questions in there. One, I think the answer is no, but somebody was asking, are these agencies engaged in the data center placement in Kentucky and any requirements related to replacing maybe lost habitat? As far as I know, no, but Jacob, you may know more on that than I do.
Uh, I guess I didn't, in loss of habitat.
Well, I guess as these data centers come in, the idea
Oh,
was
okay.
that they are then,
Gray
taking
eye
out
stuff.
habitat. Yeah.
There is some stuff on our non-game side of stuff that we do provide input and comments on some of that stuff if any federal money is associated with those kind of
Mhm.
things. I'm definitely not in the loop exactly how all that works or goes. And just data centers, everything that the type of you bring in urbanization as it sprawls. Urban sprawl is always going to be bad on the wildlife side of things. At the same time, we do have to live. So
Yeah.
it's a hard
Yeah.
it's a hard
Getting
balance.
that balance right.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody had asked about if extension offices and agents and stuff were going to be in there, and yes, we're going to include them. And then there was, let's see, I thought I saw another one, Jacob.
Is there a
Place to
place
leave
to leave
reviews
reviews on
of
vendors
the
and
vendors. Yeah.
services? I think that'd be an awesome idea.
No, that is something I haven't talked to our IT people about.
Yeah.
And it does. This is a little bit different as we're a state entity running this
True.
Right.
on the
True.
idea of
I
what we
would
can or can't allow. So
I
the
would say
vendors,
probably not on that,
Not
right? Because if we're not vetting the vendors, how
true.
can we
Yeah,
vet the reviews of the vendors?
yeah. So yeah, it's going to be
that makes
there's going to be
sense.
a whole lot of that stuff come up.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just we're building it and hoping they come together a
Yeah.
little bit, right?
And this is the importance if you're a professional out there talking to landowners and you put them towards this is that it is really imperative that they do their due diligence before they hire somebody.
Yep.
Ask who they've worked with, what they've done, and then take that information, follow up, and call those people, and then call the professionals
Yep.
and say, "Hey, have you ever looked at this person's work? Have you ever had, do your due diligence."
Yes,
And that
yes.
is something we've talked about before on this page too, is kind of doing an overview for landowners on kinds of questions to ask before you get it with a
Sure.
contractor.
A great
I
idea.
think that is something that could really be helpful too. So
If you
Yeah.
get a lot of complaints, though, would you take someone off of it? Or
well,
is that just something you're just not even going to touch?
Yeah.
that's again being a state agency. It's kind of hard
Gotcha.
for me to turn around and say I'm going to be able to take anybody off anything without some very
Right.
unless they're breaking the laws or doing something else. So,
Well, I guess if you had a master logger that got their license taken away, then you
yeah,
could
yes,
take them.
yeah,
That would be a
Yeah,
way
something like
you
an
would take
example of
that
where,
off. An
yes,
example.
but
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it is such a challenge to try to. I mean,
Right.
there's really no way to kind of verify this, right? We just don't have enough people to go out and hang out with each one of these vendors and get to know them and all that. It's just not
And
possible.
what I hope is we give vendors the opportunity to learn how to do this,
Yep.
and you get out here and it'll kind of weed itself out. Again,
Yep.
I think if landowners ask the right questions to the right people and follow up on it, you'll be able to tell if somebody you're talking to has a good reputation or not.
Yep, no doubt. And Jacob, I mean, for years I've heard landowners tell me, Billy, I've got these prescriptions, but I can't do the work. I don't know who can get the work done. So I'm so excited that we can maybe make those connections for folks out there. So yeah, kudos to you and your IT staff for really helping us build something nice here, buddy.
Thank you for the time. If any other time I come back
Oh, we'll have you
Oh,
back a
yeah.
lot on it. Yeah, we need to talk about this on a regular basis, right? And
Mhm.
keep it up there
Yeah.
for sure.
All right.
Thank you so
Good
much.
stuff, man.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Jacob.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. I told you
Good
today
show.
was going to be an awesome
I
show.
know. We packed it in all the way
We
to
packed
noon.
all the
Thank
way to
you
noon.
all.
Yes,
Yeah, with
exactly.
some great guests. Really appreciate Dr. Muller taking care of our first myth and getting rid of
Myth
the
busted.
exploding trees. Yeah, that was awesome. Good presentation there. And then we heard from Dr. Ellen Crocker on lesser celandine, which is something you all need to be on the lookout for and keep it contained before it explodes on your property. We don't want that. And then we heard from Jacob Stewart with Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources talking about this conservation vendor database that we've been working on. We're really excited about, and we'll be getting more information about. But Renee, great to be with you all. You all let us know if we can cover something you all need to see out there in your woods.
Yeah, help us bust some of those myths that you may or may not believe in. That would be wonderful. You can email those at forestry.extension@uky.edu anytime you have a show suggestion at all. Also, if you want to rewatch any of our shows, you can go to fromthewoodstoday.com and all of those episodes will be on there. But again, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. So we greatly appreciate you joining us each and every week.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much. And we want to be there for you. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
From the woods today. From the woods today.